Wisdom. It's an incredibly valuable asset. Some would say more precious than gold. It's attractive, appealing, admirable. Conversely, a lack of wisdom is the basis of immaturity, blind spots, and bad decisions. Wisdom. It can be gained over time, but it can't be rushed. But wisdom can be shared. That's precisely what we are here to do right now. Today, we are here to hack wisdom, to distill it, to understand it, and to process it. Why? To get better at life. Welcome to The Main Thing. This is your new 9-minute podcast. I'm your host, Skip Lineberg, and I've set out to interview the wisest people I know. We'll see what we can learn from each one when they're faced with an incredibly difficult, soul-piercing question. Welcome back to the Main Thing podcast. I'm your host, Skip Lineberg, coming to you today from Parkwood Studios. In just a moment, you will hear from our special guest who's a full-blooded creative, a gifted designer who works for one of the world's most respected technology companies, Intuit. He lives in London and is very intentional, like all of us, on living a full, purposeful, and joyful life. What wisdom flows from this person whose life and giftings sit at the crossroads of creativity, technology, and compassion? But first, a warm welcome to our first-time listeners. So glad to have you here with us. To learn more about all the wisdom offerings available to you, please head over to our website, themainthingpodcast.com. Once there, I encourage you to sign up for our wisdom newsletter. It's an excellent supplement to our podcast. A special shout out of gratitude to our newest patron, J.D. from West Virginia. Thank you, J.D., for your encouragement and for helping to keep this pipeline of wisdom flowing with your monetary support. Now for our special wise guest. J.B. Chaykowsky is a designer and creative who leads a globally dispersed design team for Intuit, the storied Silicon Valley fintech company. He enjoys traveling with his wife and son and enjoys the intersection of people, technology, and philosophy. His personal mission is to make technology more poetic. JB joins us today from London. Settle in and get ready. Over the next 9 minutes, you will discover why JB Chaykowsky is one of the wisest people I know. JB, good morning. Welcome to the Main Thing podcast.
Good morning, Skip. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, likewise. Hey, JB, you are a self-acclaimed coffee aficionado like I am. Tell us a little bit about your morning cup and what you're into these days in the coffee realm.
Yeah. I got into coffee in the pandemic, mainly because it was one of the few shops open here in London. And it was the way to get outside human impact. So I look at coffee as sort of like a way to start the day in a personal way.
Right.
That's how it started. And then it moved into, I'm paying a lot for this. How can I reduce the cost? And then that's when I purchased this amazing coffee maker, which separates the grinding from the brew. And it really has become an important part of my day to kind of start that day off, and a ritual. You kind of just gain an appreciation for something the more that you begin to study it. And it's slightly interesting in how you can perceive things when you begin to really take notice of them rather than just take them for granted. And I think that's what coffee allows me to do now, is like be present for that first moment before things get maybe a little hectic.
Folks heard me introduce you before you came on air with us as being a creative, a designer. I wonder just if you would share some thoughts with our audience on your lifestyle as a creator, a designer, a maker, and how you live into that, how you fuel that, and how you maintain your creativity.
I'm happy that I can do that. I think one of the things that keeps me creative is to just continually immersing myself in the human aspects of life, like, coffee or
Sure.
the arts, watching a film, and asking myself, why did they make the decision to do X or to do Y?
Ah,
And then you start like kind of rolling things back, and you're like, oh, I can actually understand why they might have made that decision.
not just
You know, and-
consuming something, but trying to appreciate and go inside the why.
yeah, exactly. Every day is an opportunity to give the world like your expression, whatever that
Mm.
might be. Like you have a point of view and you're trying to impose your point of view on the world in some way,
Hmm.
hopefully positively.
Yeah.
Um, it becomes almost to akin of like breathing. And so for me to not act creatively, it's like a shark not moving. I can't breathe.
Ah.
And it's just a part of me.
I'm so blessed to get to know you, and I consider you a new friend. But I think that's all thanks to Pamela Kiesling.
Mhm.
And I wondered if you would share how you and Pamela are connected.
Yeah. Pamela, I've known since college, and like I'm a big fan of Pamela's, and she's someone I root for.
Hmm.
I admire her because I can see her living in loving kindness every day.
Yeah.
Like, and she's fearless, she's herself, and she's open with her challenges.
Well said. Thank you, Pamela. 192. 192 extra minutes of wisdom. That's what you get when you become a patron of the Main Thing podcast. Many of you continue to say, we want to hear more from these wise guests. That's precisely what patrons of our podcast get. Exclusive access to bonus episodes called The Whole Thing. These 30-minute special shows bring you a deeper dive into our guests' wisdom. Less editing, more laughter. Less time limits, more stories. Unlock those 192 extra minutes of wisdom for yourself for as little as $9 per month through the Patreon platform. And when you become a patron, you also get access to wisdom essays, behind-the-scenes glimpses, and access to special patron-only wisdom gatherings. Head over to patreon.com/themainthingpodcast. Go unlock your 192 extra minutes of wisdom. J.B. Chaykowsky, what's the main thing you've learned in your lifetime so far?
Skip, the main thing I've learned in my lifetime so far is that every single decision you make either takes you closer or farther away from the person you want to become.
Unpack that, all the nuance and meaning for us. I'd like to hear more about that from you.
Yeah, so there's I can give you kind of the background of how it gestated for me, because it
I'd
was
love to hear
about
that. Yeah.
it's about a year, a little bit over a year ago, that it codified.
Mm.
So in design and in creativity, you're always balancing all these things and your lived experience. Like I don't think you ever fully pull yourself away from the work. And so I think that's part of it, is that you're always bringing in new information. And I was reflecting last year, maybe around this time a little earlier, about from 2019 to 2022. I just moved to London in 2019.
Yeah.
6 months later, the whole world shuts down. And the pandemic was not kind to me.
Okay.
It was a very challenging environment. I had a new role, new team,
New place.
no support system, no
Oh, gosh.
friends really, right?
I could imagine
I had
that
my
would be
family.
hard.
I had my family. I had my son. But at the same time, when you're going through things, and the whole world is literally going through something,
Yes.
it's really hard to be like, "Hey, I'm going through this thing," to somebody, because they're also in a very negative state.
Yeah.
And so, I was coming out of that fog, and at the same time, I was rereading Ray Dalio's book on principles, and it's a great book,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's an extremely thick book of
Okay.
hundreds of principles that he's used for work and life. And I was rereading it, trying to put some type of new structure in place, like 2023 is going to be my year. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of took a step back and I said, this isn't me. Like all these rules, it's not simple, it's not elegant. I don't want to be a machine. In fact, I want to be more human.
Yes.
I'm tired of being caught up in the
yes,
the hurriness.
Yes.
And so I just boiled it down to that one thing, is that when I make a decision, it will always be about getting closer to the person that I want to be, rather than I have a principle for this, a principle for that, a principle for this. It's
Right.
just distill it down to this. And it's made everything so much easier, rather than thinking about all the options in front of me.
All those rules.
Yeah, all those rules, or the thousands of different permutations of, if I make this decision, what then? It's about my values and who I want to be, and does that get me closer to that person?
Yeah.
So we go from Ray Dalio to Dwight Schrute, who once said in an Office episode, before I do anything, I ask myself, would an idiot do that? And if the answer is yes, I do not do that thing. Right? And so
such simple wisdom right there.
And I'm kind of like, it's the distillation of all these things, and just being like, life doesn't need to be complicated. Life doesn't need a giant, manuscript or instruction manual on this. We'll go back to the coffee shops for a moment.
Sure. Let's do. Gladly.
Next time you're in a Starbucks, stop, look at the person in the eyes, and just say, how are you doing today? I guarantee you will be one of maybe 5 people, a handful of people out of the hundreds that have been in that shop that day, just to ask them and look at them in the face and acknowledge them as a person. How are they doing today?
I love that.
That's all it takes. That is a decision you get to make about being the person you want to be. Right.
I'm envisioning that right now, and I'm seeing that person on the other side of the counter exhale and their shoulders drop. And they're like, then they're relating to you in a humane fashion. I'm relating to them in a humane fashion. Yeah. And now we're dealing with each other as people.
Yeah. They are a person, and they have been acknowledged as a person rather than a service provider. And it's just small little things like that. The decisions you make, every decision, that's why I say every decision, those small, really does matter. It's like small decisions really do get you 1% better every day. And it's really important to treat every single person like a person.
Yeah. Your designer brain, your designer heart really came out in that example.
Appreciate
Spoken like a designer. Yeah. Yeah. So your main thing, every single decision that you make brings you closer to or farther away from the person that you wish to become. If someone listening right now has not yet embraced that wisdom, what might be some things that they're crashing into, or pain points they're feeling, or what would be evidence that they need to spend some time there?
For me, it showed up as I need to do more to be myself or something. Like, it felt like this, have I lost who I am? I thought about what I was known for. And so can you put more of what goodness out in the world, so that way you just start acting in that way? It becomes the habit that you do every day, is that you treat people, you shake their hand, you look them in the eye. Every action becomes, when you start doing it with intent, becomes almost automatic. And I think you bring a sense of magnetism to yourself when you do those things, and you invite success versus chasing it. You can really start living with intent and become the person you want with every decision that you make.
JB, great place to leave it. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom here on The Main Thing. And I hope as you head into the weekend that you have a great weekend, and can't wait to talk again. But so long for now.
Thank you. We'll chat soon, I'm sure.
Wow, that goes by incredibly fast, doesn't it? Time flies when you're hacking wisdom. I hope you're left wanting more. Sync up with us again next time on The Main Thing for 9 more minutes of wisdom.